learned at work. I got involved 23 years ago in my own school district. So I just wanted to encourage everybody to vote in the primary, because that in Pennsylvania we cross-file, and so if they win on both tickets in May, which is in 3 weeks, they can be on the school board and control everything. But I did want to ask you, how did you come to your senses?
I could probably write a book about that. It really started in high school. I was disturbed by a lot of the flat-out cruelty that I saw in the religious right, where, I was still at the point where I thought that being gay, for example, was a sin, but why did you have to be so flat-out mean to these people? And a sense of empathy is generally important to helping you question the rest of your belief system, and it kind of came to a head while I was in college at that conservative Christian college, and then I realized that this just wasn't for me, and it didn't represent my values anymore. That's okay. Anybody else? Any more questions?
Yeah. Are you a believer now, or are you a agnostic, or what are you?
That's a great question. I think it's important to periodically ask if someone would argue anyway. I identify as a humanist now, so I don't have any religious beliefs at the moment, but I'm involved with the interfaith community in metropolitan Washington, so I work pretty frequently with members of other minority religious groups and other atheists, agnostics, and humanists generally to support real religious freedom and tolerance. Yes?
Sorry the questions are so personal. I wish you would write a book. But is your family talking to you, or?
They are. I had a very interesting conversation with my mom the other day. I don't know how many of you are aware, but the state of Tennessee was debating a bill that would have made the Holy Bible the state's official book.
Yeah.
Right, because that's important. And I'm from Bristol, Virginia, which is half of Virginia, half of Tennessee, so of course my parents were following quite closely. I was talking to her about it, and she just hops on the phone and she's like, "That's a clear violation of the separation of church and state." And I was like, "Yes, very good." So, it comes and goes, but they're good moments. Yes?
What do you think of the arguments for the gay marriage positions? And I personally am quite irritated by the argument for procreation, because you're arguing to try to encourage people who aren't oriented towards procreation to creating beings that aren't really wanted.
Right.
And all that, the hazards with that. Are there any arguments that you particularly like or don't like in the debate?
Well, the procreation argument, of course, that leaves out huge segments of the heterosexual population as well. Not everyone wants to have children or can have biological children. So this is a very restrictive defense of so-called traditional marriage, and so, of course, I find that, problematic. For that reason, the tradition argument, of course, I find particularly concerning, because my job is church-state separation, and I understand, tradition is really code for doctrine, and a very restrictive doctrine at that. And all Christians even believe that this is, traditional marriage. So, it's very easy to take. You don't have to think very hard about these arguments to see exactly how weak they are. Anyone else? Feel free to ask anything, like anything about legislation. Yeah?
Do you think there's, I know this is kind of an open-ended question. I know there's a lot of money in the religious right to maintain the philosophy of persecution. Is there a way to break open the argument and to make fundamentalist Christians, or even mainline Christians who don't understand the notion of separation of church and state, to really help them understand it? I've been fighting this in my family for years.
Right. Well, I feel like the argument that's most likely to resonate with people, for example, my own family, is, separation of church and state isn't just protecting the state, it's protecting the church as well. So, my parents, of course, still oppose same-sex marriage, as, a number of very conservative people still do. And what I've been trying to emphasize in my conversations with them is that same-sex marriage is going to become law, first of all. It will, the Supreme Court's almost certainly going to rule in favor of equality, although, don't want to get too optimistic ahead of time. But that doesn't mean that someone's going to march into your church and arrest your pastor the First Amendment, protects your pastor as well. And I find that that's eased some concerns. Obviously, the conspiracy theories are flying thick and heavy at the moment. And I think time, honestly, is going to be the best thing to resolve that. Once they realize that it's not the end of the world and no one's going to march in and arrest their pastor Sunday morning, it'll get a bit easier. Yes?
Do you know anything about this? I saw this on the Democrat Party. I thought it was wacky, and I didn't believe it, but someone said that their Tennessee legislators actually advocated for this, about the House Republicans passing legislation that would allow employees to fire women for using birth control.
It's an issue. So I don't know as much about the Tennessee bill. I can tell you that, I'm a DC voter. And DC, being like the most liberal city outside of San Francisco, passed a bill making it illegal for employers to discriminate against any employee who uses contraception as an abortion. It's illegal, regardless of religious affiliation. So because we're DC, Congress has the ability to step in and overturn the bills that our voters actually want. And the House did vote to overturn our anti-discrimination bill, but of course, it's not going to go any further than that, thankfully. But we are starting to see that.
So it's related to abortion and birth control.
Yes. I mean, the thing with the religious right is they define a number of contraceptives as abortifacients. Even though science quite clearly says that they aren't, even if they are, it's still none of their business. But that is a factor, I think. Yes?
Isn't the birth control ban sort of discriminatory against women? Because apparently they're not saying anything if the man wants to use the birth control.
Right. I mean, they're not talking about vasectomies here. I think there is I'm not a lawyer, but on my reading of it, I do think there's a clear argument to be made that this is sex discrimination. And of course, this issue came up during the Hobby Lobby case. I'm guessing people are probably passingly familiar, at least, with the arguments there, which we had, a clear-cut case of sex discrimination, in my opinion, coming up against somebody else's religious beliefs. And of course, the Supreme Court ruled exactly the way that we hoped they wouldn't. So that's a very troubling precedent, unfortunately. Yes?
Just the ruling on the Supreme Court, do you think it's going to go 5-4? If it does, who would be the justice that will probably be the swing vote?
I'm leaning towards 5-4 myself. I've heard theories about 7-2, and I think that's widely optimistic. I would be pleasantly surprised if that happened. I think it's more likely to go 5-4, and I agree with most observers.